It's a dark night on the Russian coast, and Oleg is helping a group of smugglers to steal 1 ton of caviar on a small boat. The sailor he's hired protests against the idea, reminding him his boat can only carry 600 kilos, and doesn't change his mind even when Oleg offers him more money. This isn't enough for Oleg to give up though. He pretends to call his wife but actually talks to the smuggler and tells him to say the cargo is 600 kilos so the sailor will take it. The trick works, and Oleg gets his ton of caviar loaded on the boat, but they aren't able to go too far. The boat and the cargo slowly sink, and the men have no choice but to swim to the shore. When the sailor demands to be paid for the damage to his boat, Oleg gives him his new and modern car, so he's left with the sailor's old rickety vehicle and debt of 1 million with the smugglers. The next day, Oleg goes to see his girlfriend Sveta at the bank she works at to ask for a loan, but she can't give it to him because he hasn't finished paying the one he's already taken. Wanting to help, Sveta offers an alternate solution. They could ask her family for help since they own a house. Oleg isn't a fan of this idea, since he can't stand Sveta's family and would rather not see them again, but he's out of options. They drive to her house where the whole family lives together. There's Sveta's father, Boris, who likes to sing weird songs and hasn't left the house in 5 years because he's a wanted man. Her maternal grandfather Pavel, who wishes he could die already. Her sister Rita, who works as an accountant at the theater but wishes to be a performer. Her brother Oleg, who wants to join the army but can't because of his asthma and likes training dogs. And her sister Sasha, a young girl that keeps daydreaming about becoming a grown woman and has a crush on her Sveta's boyfriend. Oleg tries to talk to Boris about his money problem, for which he has to wait until he's done singing. When Boris finally hears what he has to say, he freaks out, thinking selling the house is like selling his family to slavery. Oleg tries to explain to them that nobody will lose anything, he just needs a guarantor's letter, but it's pointless. Boris' answer is still no. Suddenly, their argument is interrupted when a meteorite comes through the roof and lands in the middle of the house and hitting Pavel. At first, the family runs outside, thinking they may be under attack, but as soon as they see a meteorite shower in the sky, they understand what's going on and go back inside to check on their grandfather. After taking him to bed, Oleg and the siblings start digging to take the meteorite out to sell it, but one by one, the siblings go to sleep and leave Oleg digging alone. He doesn't finish until morning, and when he comes out of the hole, he finds Pavel calling him from bed to tell him he's about to die. Oleg wants to call an ambulance, but Pavel forbids it. He's lived long enough and wants to leave this world in peace. Before passing away, he gives Oleg one last massage to pass on to his family. They can all go to hell. After checking Pavel's pulse to be sure it's real, Oleg rushes to Sveta to give her the news, but she's deeply asleep and won't pay attention. Oleg ends up falling asleep next to her, and when Oleg comes later to show him something, Sveta is gone. Oleg follows Oleg to the living room and finds the meteorite is transformed into a strange liquid. Sasha has gained super strength and Rita can fly. Sveta shows up a moment later, appearing with half her body invisible, and Pavel suddenly joins them as well, alive and well. But when Rita can't control her new ability and flies away through the hole on the roof, she quickly falls to the ground, and Pavel passes away again as Sveta comes fully visible. After they help Rita back inside and tie her up so she can't float away again, causing Pavel to awaken, they reach the conclusion that the meteorite has given them special powers. Sveta thinks they should call the authorities, and as soon as she leaves the room, Pavel dies again and Rita stops floating. It seems these special abilities only work if they're all together. They go to see a doctor to ask him about it, but the doctor says they're healthy and there is nothing wrong with their bodies. This interrupting effect they get when they separate must simply be part of how their powers work. Later during dinner, they discuss what they should do with these powers. Rita wants to perform but Pavel thinks people will experiment on them if they do. While Oleg feeds his dogs and discovers he can understand them now, Oleg tells Boris that the family should appear on TV and get paid for it, but Boris refuses to have his family used like that. When they go to bed, Oleg asks Sveta about the money they keep in the bank while she wonders if she'll have invisible children. The next morning, Pavel tries to hang himself, but it's pointless. As long as he is around his family, he'll stay alive. Boris discovers his power as teleportation when he goes to the bathroom and tries too hard to relieve himself, and decides the family needs a little vacation to deal with this. The group goes to a lake to fish, and while Boris learns to control his power, Oleg tells everyone about the plan he's come up with. They should work together to rob a bank. With Sveta being invisible, She just needs to walk and then walk out with the bag of money while everyone sits in the car nearby so she doesn't lose her ability. Rita, Oleg, and Sasha are in, but Boris continues to turn down the idea, even saying he doesn't care if Oleg leaves and they can't use their powers anymore. Angry, Oleg gets in the car and Sveta follows him after telling his family to put Pavel's body in the basement until they come back. On the road, Oleg tries to convince Sveta his plan is a good idea, but they're suddenly made to pull over by another car. It's the smugglers, who want their money. Oleg tells them he could have it in a month, but they can't accept that. He'll pay them in a week or they will sell his organs in the Chinese black market. After the smugglers leave, Sveta finally understands that Oleg's debt isn't just about the money, it puts his life in danger too, so she accepts to help him. The following day, the couple takes Boris to see a wonderful new house that they could buy if they follow the plan. Boris doesn't think he needs a new house, but Sveta finally stands up for herself and tells him the family is sick of the old rickety house and they will move anywhere with a functioning toilet. Boris still refuses, but when Sveta starts crying and points out she's asking for his help for the first time in her life yet he won't listen to his daughter, Boris finally gives in and accepts to rob the bank. After discussing the details of how they'll pull it off, the family celebrates the new life they'll have, and Sasha keeps interrupting Oleg and Sveta when they try to have some private time together. The next morning, she even puts some makeup on to impress him. Oleg is surprised when suddenly, all the family members start putting down conditions if he wants them to collaborate. Pavel wants to be cremated after the robbery is over, Rita wants to fly in front of an audience and Sasha wants to have a date with him. Oleg thinks they're asking for too much and refuses to collaborate, but Boris scolds him and tells him that if he wants to be part of the family, then he'll help them in return or the deal is over. So Oleg has no choice but to fulfill everyone's wishes. After visiting the theater Rita works at and scheduling her show, Oleg finally discovers what his power is while in bed with Sveta. He can pour water out of his finger, which Sveta points out is useful for watering the plants. The following morning, Sasha joins the couple when they go check out the bank that will be their victim. It's not the one she works at, so they can avoid suspicion. While they discuss the details, Sasha asks what would happen if Sveta was caught and sent to jail, wondering who would take care of Oleg. Amused, Sveta plays along and tells her she can do it. When they return home, they find out Oleg has shaved his head because he's finally been accepted in the army, which means he won't be available to rob the bank. Boris is sad that he'll be losing his son, but Oleg can't stop thinking about the plan. So he pulls some strings among his contacts and gets the army to talk to Oleg and tell him it was all a mistake. Oleg is obviously furious and upset about this turn of events, but Boris doesn't hide how pleased he is that the army has, according to him, seen the light. Oleg comforts Oleg, telling him that after they rob the bank he can talk to some people he knows and get him, gaining Oleg's trust as he helps him. Next, they go to a funeral home to make the arrangements for Pavel's cremation. The employee gives them a piece of paper that Pavel can stick to his chest so when the police find him dead, they'll know to take him there. Afterward, Oleg takes Sasha out for lunch at a fancy restaurant while the family watches them from afar and Sveta invisibly sits next to them to keep an eye on her sister. Sasha wants Oleg to take her with him after the robbery because she can't stay in her family anymore. But before Oleg can turn her down, they're interrupted by the smugglers, who are also eating there. They come closer to interrogate Oleg, and when Sasha notices they're bad guys, she stands up and doesn't hesitate to beat them up. The whole family starts running away to avoid trouble, causing Sasha to lose her super strength and finally leave the smugglers behind as well. Later, the family spends the night listening to Oleg's dog sing the national anthem. The following day, it's finally time to execute the plan. Oleg parks the car across the street under the sun, because the shattered alley Boris points at a no parking sign. Since she can only make her body invisible but not her clothes, Sveta takes them off before walking into the back, invisible and naked, together with Oleg. She follows the employees around to learn all the passwords and safe codes while Oleg takes a picture of the floor mapping place they need to escape. Meanwhile, Boris is tired of the sun and decides to move the car to the little alley to get fresher air. This turns out to be a problem. The area is only for the bank's armored truck department. Boris refuses because it would cause Sveta to become invisible, so she needs to be in the car. The car takes her out truck to push the car away. Sveta is in front of an employee and a client that can't believe what they're seeing.
The family calls Oleg. He makes it inside and helps them get she wants to recovers her powers and disappears. The song is under with hallucinating. He finally gets ready to leave, but his friends by the police. They only want to check on him. Yes, however, thanks you for warning me and teleports away. I can take inside the clothes. Much later, Oleg gets in the back of his he tells the family that this is his imagination. Please, he yells at everyone from the scene and makes them promise from the Superpowers. They still have to take rid of the since it was part of the deal. When it's okay to perform, the sisters will get nobody knows. Microphones have a deal. You can get the feeling. It's followed by the smugglers. He took him to the stage and threw him out of the game, making him an insult. They have finally done it. They keep him carrying. So many fools. Take away the using against technology in the world to describe surveillance. Trying to figure out not only anything else to do with them, but boys get an idea and the fools to kidnap him. Now watch off. The family goes back to the bank. While Papa distracts from camping out nearby by drinking fuel and lighting his back on fire, the family covers their faces and gets ready to attack. The truck inside of the street door to harm with the gear. Mexico's a chain weight ass put on the window. Boris teleports inside and sends the outside into the hole before being takes you up and flies her there with the guys. It's a code to learn to disable the alarm and solve the secret and throws it out on the street. As the family starts taking the money out and throwing it in the car, the police engage. They're trying to steal people and sending the dogs after them. Once they have all the money they can take, they escape after getting that money. There's a fire that they was able to do. That's right by the time when they fell away from the bank to stop and see. Just that moment, the last part of the game is simply after everyone says that goodbye to it, the family drives away, but they get upset when they see Pablo's body fall down and return out. Oleg upset and yells at them. Boris gets insane and tries to happy family. The regular mention they can't say because there's no smooth as the original police and but he doesn't have time to reply because Pablo's also needs to so the family leaves to get the son. Seeing him grab on the dog, that's so sad. He refuses to grab the money when Oleg starts demanding his qualifier, saying they should give it back. Oleg refuses, Sister kicks him out of the car, saying she doesn't want to be with him anyway. Seeing he hasn't changed at all, Oleg moves and takes care of his business. As the smugglers leave Oleg, then hides the rest of the money by taking it to his body under his clothes. still fighting on their third person activity. Most psychopaths rather than the police files to make them valuable. Some psychopaths don't have little super strength, and we can consider them profitable. Black holes are important. For threats can't be covering a psychopath, causing all of these vehicles to crash against each other except for one. Making it
each other. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.